In 2007, a report from Star magazine surfaced, one that Tom Cruise's team scrambled to shut down before it spread any further. According to the publication, Cruise had poured nearly $10 million into an underground structure hidden beneath his sprawling ranch in Colorado. It wasn't a wine vault. It wasn't a storage chamber. It was described as a fortified shelter built for roughly 10 people, complete with specialized ventilation and sealed systems. The magazine alleged that it was engineered to guard against forms of alien contamination, a claim immediately dismissed by Cruise's representatives. But by then, contractors involved in the project had already spoken. What they said linked directly to some of the most secretive layers of Cruise's Scientology beliefs, levels he had reached at that exact point in time. The construction, the timing, the secrecy, it was no coincidence. To understand how Tom Cruise reached that moment, you have to start at the beginning. He entered the world on July 3, 1962, in Syracuse, New York, into a home where stability was always just out of reach. His mother, Mary Lee, worked tirelessly as a special education teacher, doing everything she could to keep the family afloat. His father, Thomas Cruise Maypother III, battled unemployment and carried a volatility that filled the house with tension. The family drifted from city to city, leaving Tom to navigate a childhood built on constant movement. By the age of 18, he had cycled through 15 schools. Every time he settled, they moved again. Every time he formed a friendship, he had to start over. Later in life, Tom described his father in stark terms: a man who smiled before striking, a man who could shift a room from calm to chaos without warning. From an early age, Tom learned to brace himself, emotionally and physically, just to get through each day. Home felt like a maze of hidden tripwires. School did not offer refuge. By 7, he had been diagnosed with dyslexia, but the diagnosis changed little. He was still the newcomer in every classroom, still the kid who stumbled over words, still the boy whose height and crooked teeth made him an easy target. Teachers labeled him lazy. He knew the truth but carried the secret alone. To survive, he memorized whatever instructors read aloud, repeating the information later as if he had read it himself. Every school felt like another test he was destined to fail. Then, in 1974, everything detonated. Tom's mother finally reached her breaking point. Quietly, she instructed Tom and his 3 sisters to pack their belongings and hide them. When the moment was right, they slipped out of Ottawa and returned to Louisville. She filed for divorce when Tom was 12. Their father followed, begging to return, but she refused. Tom witnessed her working multiple jobs to keep the family afloat. He delivered newspapers to help and massaged her feet after long shifts. The burden was heavy, but it also bound them together. A decade later, in 1984, Tom attempted to reconcile with his father. The man agreed to meet at the hospital, but only on the condition that Tom never asked about the past. He died soon after, still in his 40s. The unanswered questions, the trauma, and the unresolved years remained with Tom, shaping him quietly and permanently. In the aftermath of the family's escape, Tom searched for direction. At 14, he entered St. Francis Seminary School in Cincinnati, believing he might pursue the priesthood. A visiting priest, Father Rick Schneider, had spoken at Tom's school in Louisville, and something about that life called to him. Tom scraped through the IQ test and soon found himself immersed in a routine of prayer, discipline, and strict structure. A classmate, Shane, remembered how earnestly Tom embraced the lifestyle and how both boys were fascinated by the priests. But the path didn't hold him for long. After a year, he felt himself pulled elsewhere. He later said he simply liked girls too much to commit to that life, and he returned to a traditional high school, still searching for who he would become. Even after the seminary, academics remained a battlefield. When he finished high school, he still couldn't read fluently. He would later describe himself as functionally illiterate. His sister Lee helped him navigate assignments, guiding him through the work he couldn't complete alone. When he landed early acting roles, Taps in 1981, Risky Business in 1983, he depended on listening to scripts rather than reading them. He learned lines like lyrics, memorizing their rhythm and sound. On set, he hid the struggle behind a confident smile, yet he refused to stop moving forward. At 18, in 1980, he left Glen Ridge, New Jersey, and headed for New York City with almost no money but a fierce sense of purpose. He promised himself he would give the dream 10 years. He washed dishes, hauled freight, and auditioned relentlessly, walking into rooms filled with trained actors while he carried nothing but instinct, determination, and raw drive. His break came quickly. A tiny role in Endless Love, 1981, opened the industry's door. That same year, he secured a major part in Taps, which cost $14 million to produce and earned almost $36 million. The intensity of the 19-year-old newcomer caught casting directors by surprise, and they took notice. Still, the battle with dyslexia persisted. Tom relied on Leanne. He obtained information verbally from directors. He memorized lines phonetically. The strain was so intense that, at times, his legs ached from studying, and headaches forced him to stop. Even so, he didn't quit. When he filmed Top Gun in 1986, he still struggled to read. He beat out more than 200 actors for the role of Maverick and trained in real F-14 Tomcats, getting sick during flights just like the rest of the cast. The $15 million film skyrocketed to $357 million worldwide, becoming a cultural phenomenon. MTV pushed its soundtrack nonstop. U.S. Navy recruitment soared by 500%. And amid the chaos of newfound superstardom, Tom encountered something that would transform his life. That year, he discovered Scientology's study technology. Using its methods, he learned to read with confidence for the first time. He later said it made him believe he could learn anything. It reshaped the way he saw himself. From there, he continued stretching toward deeper roles. In The Color of Money, 1986, he played opposite Paul Newman, 24 years old beside a Hollywood legend of 61. Newman, nominated 7 times for an Oscar without a win, earned his long-awaited Academy Award for the role. Tom received a Golden Globe nomination and observed firsthand the discipline and endurance required for a lifelong acting career. The film earned $52 million domestically and marked Tom's shift into richer, more dramatic territory. 2 years later came Rain Man. Tom portrayed Charlie Babbitt, a self-absorbed luxury car dealer whose world is upended when he discovers he has an autistic savant brother, Raymond, played by Dustin Hoffman. Production unfolded during the tense weeks of the 1988 Writers Guild strike. The film's closing scene, one of its emotional anchors, was written only hours before the strike began, just barely making it into the final shooting script. Despite the creative restrictions caused by the Writers Guild strike, Rain Man became the biggest film of 1988, earning between $354 and $429 million worldwide on a production cost of just $25 million. It went on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Many critics argued that Tom Cruise's portrayal was the emotional core of the film, a sign of how far he had come from the boy who once hid his inability to read. Then, in 1989, Tom took on a role that demanded a level of commitment far beyond anything he had attempted before. For Born on the 4th of July, he immersed himself completely in the life of Vietnam veteran Ron Kovic. He spent months in a wheelchair, visited VA hospitals, and lived inside the physical and psychological strain of the character. Director Oliver Stone even proposed administering a drug that would temporarily paralyze him for 2 days so he could understand the loss of control Kovic experienced. The idea was rejected by the studio's insurance team, but it showed how far both actor and director were willing to go. Tom lost weight, carried his own emotional scars into the performance, and on July 3, 1989, his 27th birthday, Ron Kovic handed him his actual Bronze Star Medal. The film earned $162 million worldwide on a budget of $17.8 million and resulted in Tom's first Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. His momentum continued into the 1990s. When he stepped into the world of NASCAR for Days of Thunder, he trained like a real driver, feeling every curve, every drop, every shift in speed. He reunited with director Tony Scott, hoping to recapture the electricity they created with Top Gun. The film was released on June 27, 1990, cost $60 million to produce, and grossed $157.9 million worldwide. But compared to the cultural explosion of Top Gun, it felt modest. Its opening weekend delivered just $15.5 million across 237 screens. Paramount executives felt the disappointment immediately, but Days of Thunder changed Tom's life for another reason. During filming, he met actress Nicole Kidman. He later described the moment as instant, overwhelming attraction, something he called pure lust. Their relationship moved fast. By Christmas Eve 1990, in Telluride, they were married. At the same time, Tom's connection to Scientology deepened, gradually influencing the direction of his personal and professional decisions. It wasn't his first marriage. Before Kidman, Tom had wed actress Mimi Rogers on May 9, 1987. He was 24, she was 31. Rogers was the person who first introduced him to Scientology, a turning point that would redefine his life. The marriage lasted 3 years and ended in 1990, just as she turned 33, a number that would return in unusual ways in Tom's later relationships. According to former high-ranking Scientology official Mike Rinder, church leader David Miscavige played a direct role in speeding up the divorce. He even sent Scientology executive Greg Wilhere to pressure Rogers into finalizing it within 24 hours so Tom could move forward with Nicole. Insiders whispered that Tom's infidelity and Mimi's insistence on Scientology-based marriage counseling created deep fractures. In 1993, Rogers gave a blunt, infamous explanation in an interview with Playboy. She said Tom had contemplated becoming a monk because he believed celibacy would keep his instrument pure, and added that her own instrument needed tuning. It was a cutting remark that summed up the bitterness between them. Professionally, Tom's star continued to rise. A Few Good Men premiered in 1992 and became a global hit, earning $243 million worldwide. The courtroom showdown between Tom's character and Jack Nicholson produced one of the most iconic lines in film history, "You can't handle the truth." Nicholson's delivery unexpectedly became the centerpiece of the entire movie. Tom, still battling the effects of dyslexia, had to memorize dense legal monologues. He trained himself to visualize each sentence as a mental image, effectively rebuilding the way he processed written language. The technique worked. The film topped the box office for 3 straight weeks and became the highest-grossing R-rated courtroom drama of its era. The following year brought The Firm, and the box office erupted again. Based on John Grisham's best-selling novel, the film opened with $32.5 million, remained number 1 for 3 weeks, and ultimately took in $270.2 million globally on a $42 million budget. Adjusted for inflation, its domestic earnings would exceed $360 million today. Grisham adaptations dominated the 1990s, and Tom delivered a tightly wound, paranoid performance that critics praised as one of his sharpest. He once again relied on visualization techniques to navigate pages of legal terminology he could not easily read. Then came Interview with the Vampire in 1994, a project surrounded by controversy long before cameras rolled. Author and Rice publicly condemned Tom's casting as Lestat, insisting he was the wrong choice and naming Julian Sands as her preference. Director Neil Jordan had initially approached Daniel Day-Lewis, who declined the role because it required sleeping in a coffin throughout production. Jordan ultimately trusted his instincts. He believed Tom and Lestat shared a particular duality, an image of perfection masking something hidden beneath. Tom transformed himself for the role. He wore icy blue contact lenses and played opposite Brad Pitt's Lewis and 12-year-old Kirsten Dunst as Claudia. The film earned $223 million worldwide, and the public backlash began to dissolve. On September 23, 1994, and Rice reversed her position, purchasing a full-page newspaper ad to praise Tom's performance. She later sent him a letter, saying the charm and innocence she treasured in her version of Lestat were present in his portrayal. But the turning point of his career arrived on May 22, 1996, with the release of Mission: Impossible. Made for $80 million, the film opened with $45.4 million and ultimately grossed $457.7 million worldwide. Tom had originally signed on for just 6 months of work, yet the project grew into something far more ambitious. It launched a multi-million-dollar franchise with 7 sequels and transformed Tom into one of Hollywood's most dedicated stunt performers. By the time Mission: Impossible Fallout premiered in 2018, he was piloting helicopters himself. He earned his license, trained intensely for half a year, and executed dangerous maneuvers near mountain cliffs, doing every moment of the flying scene in the final film. It was a clear demonstration of how far he was willing to go in the pursuit of authenticity. And while his on-screen risks escalated, something equally significant was happening behind the scenes. In 1993, Tom advanced to one of Scientology's most secretive and controversial levels, OT3. Reaching Scientology's OT3 level in 1993 marked a turning point Tom Cruise could never fully prepare for. It was at this stage that the church unveiled one of its most secretive teachings, a narrative about an intergalactic ruler named Xenu, who, according to doctrine, transported billions of beings to Earth some 75 million years ago and annihilated them near volcanoes using hydrogen bombs. Their disembodied spirits, called Thetans, were said to attach themselves to humans, shaping emotions, fears, and behavior. People close to Tom later recalled his reaction to this revelation as raw, intense, and unmistakably shaken. He had spent nearly a decade climbing the church's internal hierarchy since joining in the mid-1980s, and the financial commitments required to reach OT3 were enormous. For him, the moment represented both an achievement and a fracture, his public stardom soaring higher than ever while his private beliefs grew increasingly complex. Then, in December 1996, Jerry Maguire arrived. Released on December 13th, the film became a global success, earning $273.5 million on a $50 million budget and ranking as the 9th highest grossing title of the year. The now iconic "Show Me the Money" scene was largely improvised, with Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr. trading shouts and energy until the moment felt electrically alive. Director Cameron Crowe had initially pictured Tom Hanks in the lead role, but scheduling issues forced a change, and Cruise stepped in with a performance that delivered some of the most memorable lines of the decade, including "You Complete Me" and "You Had Me at Hello." The film earned Cruise a Golden Globe and another Academy Award nomination, while Gooding won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. It proved Cruise could shift effortlessly into romantic comedy and still command the screen. 5 years later, Vanilla Sky opened on December 14, 2001, carrying a $68 million budget and entering a world still rattled by the trauma of 9/11. Despite the somber atmosphere, the movie collected $203.4 million worldwide. One of its most haunting sequences required shutting down Times Square at dawn on a Sunday. A space normally packed with taxis, tourists, and relentless noise stood completely empty, silent in a way that felt almost unreal. Cruise ran through that emptiness again and again as the crew switched from Steadicam to crane shots, shaping the eerie mood the story required. The film opened with $25 million and held steady in the weeks that followed. Meanwhile, his marriage to Nicole Kidman, begun on Christmas Eve 1990, was nearing its end. They had adopted 2 children, Isabella in 1992 and Connor in 1995. To the outside world, their relationship looked unshakable. But in February 2001, Cruise filed for divorce, and the entertainment world froze in disbelief. Former Scientology executive Mike Rinder later wrote that David Miscavige, the church's leader, had exerted influence on their relationship from the beginning, even visiting the Days of Thunder set in Daytona years earlier. Rinder claimed Miscavige had orchestrated the push to dissolve Cruise's first marriage so he could wed Nicole. Later, HBO's Going Clear documentary alleged that Cruise hired a private investigator to wiretap Kidman's phone, a claim his lawyer denied. After the split, Scientology leadership reportedly designated Kidman a suppressive person, and the distance between her and Cruise widened into a permanent divide. 1 year before the divorce, Mission Impossible 2 had taken Cruise to Australia for long, difficult shoots. Thandai Newton later recounted that one balcony scene spiraled into a nightmare. The dialogue felt flat. Cruise became increasingly frustrated, and in an effort to unlock the moment, he swapped roles with her. The experiment only heightened the tension. They reshot the sequence a week later and pushed forward, but the memory remained sharp for Newton. And then came the moment that altered how the world saw him. On May 23, 2005, during an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show intended to promote War of the Worlds, Cruise leapt onto her couch in an eruption of enthusiasm over his new relationship with Katie Holmes. Within hours, the footage spread across the internet, becoming one of the earliest viral moments of the digital age. Shortly after, he publicly criticized actress Brooke Shields for using antidepressants to treat postpartum depression, and then engaged in a heated on-air debate with Matt Lauer on Today over psychiatry. The sequence of events plunged him into a storm of negative publicity. Later, he said it was a collision of emotion and timing, but insisted he meant every word. By 2006, the aftershocks reached the highest levels of Hollywood. In August, Viacom chairman Sumner Redstone delivered a blistering public condemnation in the Wall Street Journal, stating, "Someone who hurts the company and sinks revenue should not be on the lot." It was an unprecedented blow, marking the first time a studio titan openly rebuked a major star for religious activism rather than quietly ending a deal behind closed doors. Bridgestone's remarks came after Mission Impossible 3 earned nearly $100 million less than its predecessor and after the internet's mocking of his Oprah appearance reached a boil. Simultaneously, the Closet Gate controversy over South Park's Scientology episode triggered boycott threats, with some fans vowing to skip MI3 entirely until the episode returned to air. Comedy Central finally re-aired it in July 2006. Despite everything, the film managed $398 million worldwide, far from a failure, but not enough to stop the narrative that Cruise's behavior had damaged the brand. And while that public storm raged, an even stranger chapter had been unfolding quietly in the background, one that began just before Katie Holmes entered his life. The Church of Scientology began shaping Tom Cruise's private life long before the public ever saw the signs. In late 2004, the organization conducted what insiders later described as a secret girlfriend selection process. It resembled a casting call more than a relationship search. Iranian-born actress Nazanin Boniadi believed she was participating in an advanced training program. Instead, she spent weeks in daily auditing sessions throughout October 2004, disclosing personal history and intimate details without realizing their real purpose. In November 2004, she was introduced to Cruise at the Scientology Celebrity Center in Los Angeles. Their first date was extravagant. Cruise had the Rockefeller Center ice rink closed just for the two of them. Yet the relationship deteriorated quickly. By January 2005, it was over. When Boniadi later spoke about her experience, the church punished her. She was allegedly sent to a Scientology facility in Florida, where she scrubbed bathrooms with toothbrushes and dug trenches at night. Just 3 months after their breakup, Cruise appeared publicly with Katie Holmes. They married in November 2006. During their divorce in June 2012, Cruise stated under oath that Holmes filed to protect their daughter Suri from Scientology. Between June and Thanksgiving that year, he saw Suri for only 10 days. While his personal life unraveled, his professional life surged with the release of Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. The film opened on June 29, 2005, with an extraordinary $81 million global opening day and $64.9 million during Independence Day weekend, then the strongest opening of Cruise's entire career. It crossed $200 million domestically in just 24 days. Despite intense tabloid attacks over Tomcat and his Scientology involvement, the movie still amassed $603 million worldwide. Some viewers even connected the film's alien invasion narrative with Scientology's confidential Xenu story. The film remained Cruise's highest-grossing title until Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol surpassed it in 2011. Its impressive 3.61 box office multiplier showed that audiences continued to support him, even during the worst media storm of his career. His next major battle came with Valkyrie, where he portrayed Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, the German officer who attempted to assassinate Hitler. The casting triggered immediate backlash in Germany. Officials objected to a Scientologist playing a national hero, and Stauffenberg's own son publicly opposed the decision. In June 2007, the German Defense Ministry banned the production from filming at the historic Bendler Block Memorial. The ban was quietly reversed days later, though officials denied Scientology was the reason. Ironically, Germany's federal film fund still provided $6.5 million in subsidies. The production presented its own challenges. Cruise wore Stauffenberg's eye patch during filming, which affected his depth perception and balance. And historic World War II aircraft painted with swastikas flew over German towns in August 2007 during the shoot. When Valkyrie opened in December 2008, it earned $8.5 million on its first day and ultimately grossed $200 million worldwide. The controversy eventually faded, replaced by praise for Cruise's disciplined performance. In June 2010, he reunited with Cameron Diaz for Night and Day, his first major star vehicle after the global spotlight on his divorce from Holmes. Determined to reassert himself, Cruise threw himself into the film's action sequences, including the famous running of the bull's chase. Visual effects artists originally planned to add CGI bulls, but Cruise insisted on using real bulls along with motorcycles and stunt vehicles. The chase spanned Seville, kiddies, and sets at Universal Studios, with cars and scooters flipping through crowded streets. Despite strong action highlights, the film opened with Cruise's weakest first-day box office since Far and Away in 1992. Valkyrie had opened with $8.5 million in 2008, and Night and Day performed even lower. His personal controversies were now clearly affecting ticket sales. Still, the film reached $262 million worldwide and later inspired the Bollywood remake Bang Bang. To understand why these controversies kept shaping his life and career, it is necessary to look back at the origins of his involvement with Scientology. Cruise joined the church in 1986 after actress Mimi Rogers introduced him to it. In 1993, 7 years later, he reached operating Thetan Level 3, OT3, the stage where Scientologists are taught the secret story of Xenu. According to church doctrine, Xenu was an alien ruler who, 75 million years ago, brought billions of beings to Earth, detonated hydrogen bombs inside volcanoes, and released their trapped souls. These souls, called Thetans, are said to attach themselves to humans and cause emotional, mental, and physical problems. Cruise nearly abandoned Scientology upon learning this material but decided to continue. By 2005, he had reportedly reached OT7, a level where members believe they can master their internal universe and purge thousands of these spiritual attachments through prolonged and intense auditing. The Church of Scientology's influence over Tom Cruise deepened significantly during his marriage to Nicole Kidman. Auditing sessions with church leader David Miscavige used e-meters to track skin responses and probe for confessions. According to former senior executive Mike Render, the church even wiretapped Kidman's phone because officials feared she was pulling Cruise away from Scientology. Whenever Cruise appeared uncertain about the church, special auditing sessions were arranged immediately. The 2015 documentary Going Clear later claimed that the church actively worked to distance Kidman from her adopted children, Isabella and Connor, gradually turning them against her. The goal, according to insiders, was not simply to protect a prominent member, it was to preserve control over one of Scientology's most valuable public figures. In January 2008, the world saw something the church had long tried to keep hidden. A 9-minute video recorded in 2004 leaked online, showing Cruise accepting the Freedom Medal of Valor from Miscavige. Set to the Mission, Impossible theme, the video featured Cruise declaring that Scientologists were the only true authorities on the mind, praising auditing, and calling non-Scientologist actors below 2.0 on the tone scale. He credited Scientology with curing his dyslexia, saying he was effectively illiterate before joining in 1986. The church tried to scrub the clip from the internet, but it spread across YouTube and Gawker within hours. Soon after, darker accusations emerged. Former Inspector General Marty Rathbun revealed that Sea Org members, paid around $50 per week, were used extensively to work on Cruise's personal properties. John Brousseau recounted customizing a luxury motor home, installing high-end sound systems, and leading teams that renovated Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion in 2002. Workers even handled minor chores such as changing light bulbs and cleaning gutters. Brousseau later realized that much of this labor served no real purpose. It was done to demonstrate loyalty to Miscavige's favorite celebrity. Nazanin Boniati's story only widened the controversy. In October 2004, she was informed she had been selected for a confidential assignment. She was instructed to remove her braces, dye her hair, end her relationship, and sign strict confidentiality agreements. Only later did she learn the assignment was to become Tom Cruise's partner. She dated him for about 3 months until a single remark angered Miscavige. Cruise quickly withdrew, and after Boniati confided in a friend, she was disciplined with degrading labor, scrubbing toilets with toothbrushes and cleaning tiles with harsh chemicals. She testified to the FBI in 2010 and later became an advocate with Amnesty International. Observers began to notice an unsettling pattern in Cruise's marriages. He wed Mimi Rogers in 1987 and divorced her in 1990, when she was 33. He married Nicole Kidman in 1990 and ended the marriage in 2001, shortly before she turned 34. He married Katie Holmes in 2006, and they divorced in 2012, the year she turned 33. Each wife was 11 years younger than the previous one. Some speculated that Scientology's teachings about Thetan transitions around age 33 played a role, though nothing was ever confirmed. In a 2013 deposition, Cruz acknowledged that Holmes left him to protect their daughter Suri from Scientology. The emotional distance that followed became increasingly public. Suri, born April 18, 2006, saw little of her father after Holmes filed for divorce in June 2012. Cruz admitted under oath that he spent only 10 days with her between June and Thanksgiving of that year. Court filings also showed extended stretches, such as a 44-day period, when he did not see her because he was traveling. He rejected claims that he abandoned her emotionally or financially, yet today, reports indicate that Suri has no relationship with her father and lives in New York with Holmes. While these personal fractures widened, Cruz devoted himself to building his dream estate in Telluride, Colorado. He spent over 3 decades planning the property, which was completed in 1994. The ranch spanned 320 acres, roughly the size of 242 football fields. The main residence measured nearly 10,000 square feet, complemented by a 3-bedroom guest house that brought the total to 11,512 square feet with 7 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. A private 1-mile road led to its secure entrance. The home served as the backdrop for his 2008 Oprah interview and the iconic 2006 Vanity Fair photo shoot with baby Suri. He listed the estate for $59 million in 2014 before withdrawing it, then relisted in 2021 for $39.5 million. It sold within a week. In 2007, a sensational rumor added new fuel to public speculation. Star magazine claimed Cruz was building a $10 million underground bunker on the property, a sealed, high-tech shelter designed for 10 people with its own filtration system to block alien contamination. The article framed this as a precaution based on Scientology's story of Xenu and fears of retaliation by hostile spirits. Cruz's spokesperson denied the claim outright, stating that no such construction was taking place. Still, the rumor persisted, largely because it surfaced during the period when Cruz was believed to have reached OT7, one of Scientology's most elite and expensive spiritual levels. At that stage, members are introduced to the church's confidential narrative of Xenu destroying billions of spirits 75 million years ago using hydrogen bombs inside volcanoes. A story that Scientology teaches explains humanity's mental and physical suffering. As Cruz promoted Scientology with increasing intensity around this time, the bunker allegations struck many observers as consistent with the mythology surrounding his level of spiritual involvement. Even with the official denials, the timing ensured the rumor never fully disappeared.